Hey, what is up, guys? It's Nine back again with another video. And with the start of episode 4, the Valorant devs actually had an AMA not too long before the season started. I think they had it like 2 or 3 days before the season started on Twitch, and they were just going over some of the new features that we're going to be seeing throughout the episode and throughout the act. And one of the most interesting things they were talking about briefly, they talked about it briefly because it's actually not being implemented this act. It's going to release sometime in episode 4, they say. So probably in Act 2 or 3, we don't know yet, but it's the idea that they're releasing a system to counter all those Instalock Duelist players, basically.
And so
Yeah.
we've talked a lot. We came up with we're calling it Cascading Agent Pick. We
Okay.
wanted to have it out at the beginning of the episode. Unfortunately, we just couldn't get out. So it's hopefully going to land sometime in the episode. What Cascade Agent Pick is the player will have it'll have like a first, second, third, fourth, fifth pick, like you normally think of in like a protected pick type sense.
Hmm.
And the first pick will have about 15, 20 seconds. We haven't determined the exact time to pick their first agent. And then if they don't pick, or if they pick an agent, it goes to the second person. And so you're not required to pick right away. If your first pick, you can
Ooh.
just like wait a little bit. So then it unlocks the third person to pick, the fourth person to pick, and the fifth person to pick. So it'll have a trickle down or cascading effect of when you can pick your agent. Little ways off. It's gonna be a future act, maybe Act 2.
And what they described was something called a cascading pick system. And what this essentially is that when you boot up into a ranked lobby, everybody will be given a random pick order in which they will be able to pick their agents. So if you get number 1, you get to pick your agent first, and you'll have 20 seconds to do so. If you get number 5, you'll see all your teammates pick their agents first, and then you'll be the last one to pick. Now, if you're the first to pick, you don't necessarily have to pick an agent. You can let the time pass and then you can pick later again. So what Riot is trying to do with this system is that they're trying to counter all those insta-lock duelists in ranked. And if you play, enough Valorant, once you hit a certain rank, it's just Jet Reyna, Jet Reyna, Jet Reyna every single time. And it's honestly just so annoying because, as a person who isn't a primary duelist player, sometimes I do want to hop on duelist. Sometimes, I do get that itch to go play Jet or Reyna, but I just never get the opportunity because somebody's PC is faster than mine and he just locks it in, bro, without saying anything. And that's just how it is. So the fact that they're introducing a system to sort of counter that, I think, is a good idea, but I'm not sure if this is really the way to go about it. So just hearing the way they talk about the system, I have a lot of questions, and I know because they only talked about it briefly, they probably know some of these issues and they're probably working it out as we speak. But these are just some of the things that I thought about this cascading pick system and some of the issues I had with it. And my first thing is that if the insta-lock duelists get good RNG, they can still lock duelists first, right? So if you're one of those people who are always insta-locking duelists and if you get into the cascade pick system and you're number 1, then you just insta-lock duelists again and it really doesn't solve the problem. Now, it helps because you won't always be getting that first pick, of course not, right? But still, a lot of times, you might get unlucky with the RNG, somebody might get lucky with the RNG, and they're still gonna lock in that duelist first, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's literally less you can do about it because you literally won't be able to pick it if you're number 2 or 3, right? And the second issue I was having with it is that duelists will still lock Jet Reyna, and if they don't get their Jet Reyna, if 1 and 2 pick Jet Reyna and the third guy normally locks in duelist, then he'll just pick in Yoru and throw the game for his whole team. A lot of duelist players are really petty and selfish, and if somebody locks in their Jet or their Reyna before them, they're just gonna lock in Yoru and not speak a word into the voice comms and basically just throw the game. And even if they're trying, they're gonna heavily underperform because they don't play that agent, but they just completely refuse to play other agents. That I've seen it a million times where somebody who only knows how to play Jet gets the Jet taken away, then they jump onto Yoru or Raze and they just completely underperform and basically int it for their team the game away. So I think we're gonna run into a lot of situations like that. Like in an ideal world, if the Jet Reyna is taken away, then the duelist player will want to be able to jump onto another role like smokes or sentinel or initiator, but I think a lot of duelist players are still just gonna jump onto a third duelist and really screw up the team comp for a lot of people, right? And people at the end will not always fill the team comp is something else too. Like if you're the fifth guy and maybe there's already two duelists, two an initiator and a sentinel, and the last role is a smoke, there's no guarantee that that fifth guy will pick a smoke, because maybe he never plays smoke is his least played role, and he just jumps onto a third duelist or a second initiator or something, and now your team just has no smokes and you're screwed. Now once again, in an ideal world, the last guy would see what everybody's picking and then pick, you know, what would best suit the team. But that honestly probably just won't happen as much as we would like for it to happen. These things, you just have to understand, when we're dealing with people in competitive ranked multiplayer games, they will not do what's best for the team in most situations. You know, in the perfect ideal world, we're going to be using voice comms, we're going to say, hey, can I play this, can I play this, and we're going to construct a proper team. But I know that 80% of the time this simply will not be the case, and this cascading pick system can lead to more issues than we actually have in the current game. Now, one of the good things about it was that if you're number one, but you're that guy who likes to fill smokes or sentinel or whatever, you don't have to pick first. But what if there are multiple people like that? What if number one and number two doesn't pick, so they skip number 3 and 4 pick, and then what happens at the end? Do number 1 and 2 pick at the same time, or will they still be in order after 3 and 4 picks? So I have kind of questions like that, because I think it could lead up into some certain issues, right? So I'm not sure about that. So that's just kind of a question that I have about the system, is how do things like that work if multiple people don't want to pick and fill, and what happens at the end? And honestly, I think the biggest issue for Valorant is, when you compare it to other games, is that the game doesn't assign you a set role. In League of Legends, you get one of 5 positions that you queue into rank for. You're either top, jungle, mid, support, or ADC. In Overwatch, you're either gonna queue for tank, support, or DPS. Now in Valorant, there isn't set roles, right? There isn't a set, okay, every team comp needs 2 duelists, a smoke, an initiator, and a sentinel. Now most team comps would have something like that, but a lot of times it's not fixed like that. Sometimes you want 1 duelist and 2 initiators. Maybe for certain maps like Split or Bind, you want 2 controllers like an Astra Viper. So the roles aren't directly set in stone as to how many you're gonna have on a team, which I think is good about Valorant. But the problem with that is that people queue into games not knowing exactly what they're gonna play, right? As compared to these other games where you know once you go in, I'm gonna play, you know, whatever, I'm gonna play mid lane, or I'm gonna play support, or I'm gonna play tank. I know I'm gonna play this because this is what I queued up for. With Valorant, there isn't assigned roles, and you kind of have to make that as you play in the game, right? You kind of just have to go in, you gotta hover maybe what you want to play, and it just leads to a lot of issues when you're not assigned roles like this, because people will always go for the role that they like to play the most, the role that they perceive to have the most fun on, and it just leads to a lot of situations where people are insta-locking, not helping the team, not using voice comms to pick the right team comp, and it often leaves a lot of players on roles they're not comfortable with. And even if they're willing to play the smokes, if they don't play smokes, they're gonna really hurt their team, right? So you just end up with a lot of situations like this when you don't have assigned roles. But I think this cascading pick system is really interesting, and I think if done correctly, I think it could be helpful. But if not done correctly, I think it could give a lot more issues than we have currently now. But that's just my opinion on it. Those are just some of the thoughts I was having as I was listening to it. What do you guys think about this cascading pick system? Leave that down in the comments down below. And if you like videos like this, be sure to subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next video.